My name is Andreas Kouyialis. I've been working at CPW for just over 10 years now. I'm an associate director and I currently run our London office. We've been working with the University of Oxford for a while now, and they're a client with fairly high aspirations. The Global Health building itself is a research facility, essentially. They'll have some of their brightest minds there researching all sorts of health science, saving lives across the globe. For us, it was an interesting challenge. It's a passive house building, so we get to apply the things that we are best at. So the atrium is a really interesting part of the project. As with most buildings of this type, the atrium is a good way to introduce light into the center plan of the building. So essentially most of the office spaces will be lit from two sides, so you get more light into the depths of the building. In this case, we've also used the atrium as something we call a solar reservoir. The idea being that in the winter, through the use of our solar gains and the return air from the spaces in the building, warm air would collect at the top of the atrium, and we would extract that warm air back to our air handling units and through heat recovery, recover the heat and reintroduce it into the building. And we find that this works pretty well. We've used it on other projects, for example, the medical sciences building at the University of Leicester, and it helps drive the efficiency of the building even further. As this is a passive house building, things like our heating loads and our cooling loads, even ventilation loads are absolutely minimized. And what that does for us from a building services perspective is it also minimizes the amount of services we need to put in the building. So from an embodied carbon perspective, driving efficiency through passive house also means that you end up installing less services in the building. The complicated part of all this is how all these different systems talk to each other in the building. So you really need a very intelligent building management system to interface all these sensors, temperature sensors, air quality sensors, occupancy sensors, all into one sort of central brain that controls your lighting, your ventilation, your heating, your cooling. And it's quite vital to achieving your passive house energy targets that all these things are talking to each other. So the building will respond to the humans in its environment as they travel through the building, so that you're only ever using your systems when you need them, and you don't have any wastage outside those occupancy periods. As this is a heat pump-led building, a really important part of us driving our heating and cooling loads to as minimal a level as possible is that when sizing the air source heat pumps that we can be installing on the building, the size of those heat pumps is the most optimal size for this building, which is especially important in a day and age where equipment like this can be extremely expensive, noisy, and space hungry. We do have some renewable sources of energy on the building. We've got PV on the roof, but we also have solar thermal. We've done something quite clever with the solar thermal. So we've interfaced it into a thermal store with our air source heat pumps. So both our solar thermal system and our air source heat pumps are feeding into the same network. So whenever the sun's out and it's nice and bright, we'll prioritize generating heat from that free energy. And then our air source heat pumps will kick in to top that up whenever that's not available. We find this to be a quite efficient way. It's quite a niche technology to try and put together. When we were designing the project, this was not readily available on the market, so we had to design it from scratch. I believe that now there are some manufacturers who are providing kit that can do this, that can interface a heat pump with a solar thermal system. Quite a challenging part of the project was striking a balance between achieving as low an embodied carbon result as we possibly could, but also having a structural solution that gave us, from a building services perspective, enough thermal mass that we could create thermal stability in the building. So what we did was we ran a number of different structural solutions, some lightweight options, heavyweight options, and then a number of hybrid solutions where we mixed steel and concrete and tried to see and pitch them against each other, comparing the embodied carbon against the operational carbon in each option. Also looking at how that reflects in the future with the changing carbon factors in the electrical grid, for example. And using that analysis, we ended up at a mix, basically a hybrid solution for the structural elements of the building that gave us, from a building service perspective, a good amount of thermal mass, but didn't push the embodied carbon too high. That was quite a challenging exercise to undertake and really interesting. The results we got from it we use on many projects now, and we try to carry out this analysis on other schemes that we're doing. Notoriously, the challenge in a passive house building is educating the users in the building how to operate a passive house building so that you can reach that optimal level of energy consumption per annum. And that comes down to how they should operate their windows, how the BMS system needs to operate. Yeah, it's a common pitfall we find, and that's why the soft landings period and the assimilation period after the building is completed is quite an important part for us to be involved in, and to spend time with the client, the estates and the team operating the building, but also the users who are using the building on a daily basis, to not only educate them the benefits of what a passive house can bring, but also how to utilize the building that they're essentially living in. It's been the fact that it's been an incredibly rewarding experience for me. I get the opportunity to not only work on a passive house building, but also to work for the University of Oxford, which is, the top university on the planet. So for me, this has been a brilliant experience, and I can't wait to see it through to the end.